Good evening and welcome to the Caribbean Remote Work Conference 2026, the first and certainly it won't be the last. My name is Stephen Stanberry and I'll be your host and moderator for the next 90 minutes. Now, 90 minutes, this could change the trajectory of your career. So I want to ask you a question. Why are you here tonight? Right? No, seriously, why are you here? It's a Sunday night. You could be mentally preparing for Monday. You could be dreading your inbox. You could be lying in bed convincing yourself the week will be different. But here you are, and I think I know the answer to that because something isn't working. Maybe you've been grinding, applying, tweaking your resume for the 100th time, and still nothing. Or maybe you've got a job on paper, everything looks fine, but deep down it isn't. This wasn't the plan. This 9 to 5 was never supposed to be the whole story. Or maybe you're not even sure what you want yet. You just kept hearing about remote work and something inside you said, go and find out. Whatever brought you here tonight, instead of doom scrolling into another week, don't ignore. This is your signal. So, over 1,000, almost 2,000 of you are online at the moment, and that is your signal. This is the change that the Caribbean has been waiting for, right? So, whether you're a professional from Kingston to Kingstown, Nassau to Port of Spain, all showing up at the same time for the same reason. So, while I'm speaking, I want you to comment where you're from, whether you're in Jamaica, which part in Jamaica, and wherever you are in the world. Could be somewhere else in the Caribbean, Latin America, Central America, North America, or elsewhere. We are done waiting. We are done being overlooked. We're done being told opportunities aren't for us. And tonight, we're going to do something about it. So let's get it. Let's get ready. Caribbean Remote Work Conference. Avengers, let's assemble. If you have questions, drop them in the comments or write them down and we'll go through them in our Q&A later on. So here's what we built for you tonight. First, you need to understand what you're walking into, the landscape, what remote work actually looks like for Caribbean professionals right now, and how to enter it with clarity. Oshido is going to give that to you. Then, knowing isn't enough. You need to be able to compete. The right resume, the right positioning, the right answers. When they put you in that interview chair, Krishna has the playbook for you. Then the marketing guru herself, Pris, is going to get into your head because you can have the perfect resume, the perfect pitch, and still talk yourself out of applying for a job. The mindset piece is one of the most skipped, and she's not going to let you skip that tonight. And then we talk about the one thing that ties it all together. That thing makes someone choose you over everyone else with the same skills and the same expertise. But more on that later. So make sure you stay until the end so you can get first access to Global Caribbeans, a brand new job board designed to pull together remote opportunities for Caribbean professionals. Now, I've said enough, so I'm going to turn it over to Oshido, who will lead you into our first segment.
All right, Stephen, thank you for the introduction. No, I know Stephen welcomed you guys here, but I want to say welcome to the Caribbean Remote Work Conference. As Stephen said, first of its kind, but it won't be the last. No, I know a lot of you guys are very, very busy people, and I don't plan to waste your time. So I'm going to show my appreciation for your time by providing as much value to you as I possibly can. No, listen, I'm seeing you guys in the comments. You are already active, so we're going to have a conversation. So in the comments, the first thing I want you guys to do is tell me, how long now have you been trying to get a remote job? 6 months, 3 months, a year? I've seen some people said 3 years without success. So share in the chat and let me know. Because before I can pass you on over to Krishna, to Pris, to anybody, I first need to set your expectation and approach when it comes on to entering the remote job market. And we have to start with your mindset, your evolution. You have to have a mindset of evolution when it comes on to getting a remote job. 5 years, I just saw someone said they've been trying to get a remote job for 5 years. That is crazy. And after doing this for a while, I've come to realize that the biggest thing is that most people, it's the mindset. You need a mindset of evolution when it comes on to actually landing a remote job. And what does that mean really? It means that anything you think you know about remote job right now, be willing to have that change, right? Because the mindset is the biggest battlefield. And the thing is, most of us, we grew up in an environment where a resume was enough to get a remote job, just a resume. And because of that, most of us don't want to do anything beyond just the resume. But the remote job market is a very volatile market, right? So you have to be willing to go the extra mile. I can't stress that enough. If you're not able to do that and you're not willing to do that, then you know for a fact that you will struggle to land a remote job. Because at the end of the day, we cannot be more committed to your goals than you are. So what I want you to do, if you are able to commit, if you are willing to commit to the process of getting a remote job, comment I commit in the chat. Comment in the chat I commit, because that is what it's going to take. Now, the next question comes and it's piggybacking off of what Steven said. Why are you here tonight? What do you want? Right now, based on my conversation that I've had with a lot of you guys before, all of you fall within 3 categories, right? And I want you to comment in the comments as well, telling me which category you are in. 1, you're looking for a full-time remote job. So that means you want to transition from your current remote job into a full-time remote job, or you are unemployed and you want to land a full-time remote job. If that's you, comment 1 in the chat. I see you guys committing. I love that. Comment 1 in the chat. Now, 2, you want a remote job that lets you set your own time. Now, I've come to realize that this is where a lot of people are right now in their journey. Right? You want to be able to decide when you work, where you work, and the number of hours you put in on a day-to-day basis. The 3rd category is that you are looking for a part-time job. Now, when we talk about part-time jobs, based on what you guys are looking for, you're looking for something either weekends or night shift. That's what you guys are looking for. Now, building out the remote job board, building out Global Caribbeans, I have reviewed over 6,000 remote jobs. And out of those 6,000 remote jobs, I have only been able to identify no more than 20 part-time jobs. So getting a part-time job is possible because Pris is doing this on repeat. Pris is copying those part-time jobs left, right, and center. So it is definitely possible if that is the route you want to go. I just want you to know that it will take additional effort to get there. And number 4, if you're new to all of this and you're not sure where you fit in as yet, that is totally fine if that's where you are right now. I've been seeing the comments 1, 2, 3. I love that. I don't see any 4 as yet. All right. So, all right, there's a 4. All right, so that is good. Now, the thing is, what I want you guys to understand is there's a difference between a remote job and a freelance job. And for those of you guys who picked number 2, you guys are technically looking for more freelance jobs than remote jobs, because most remote jobs require you to work a set time, right? And those, it's basically like a 9 to 5, but you get to work from your home and you get to earn way more. And that's where most of you guys are right now. Now, if you're looking at a remote job, you're looking at a full-time job, same for part-time jobs, it will all be the same thing. Now, it is important for you to identify this, because depending on where you are, depending on what category you are in, it will determine the path you have to take. The good thing is, Krishna does full time, myself does full time, Pris does everything, and Steven specializes in freelance. He's done it before, right? So you can get advice depending, no matter where you are, and the advice is applicable for everybody, regardless. Another question I have for you guys now, who won, is what is your ideal time frame? Right? Know that you've committed. Know that you have identified the category that you are in based on the information, as little as it may be, that you just got. What is a timeline that you have in mind to land a remote job? As soon as possible, 60 days, 90 days, 2 months, 5 months, 6 months, what is it? Right? And you also need to write this down. This will all make sense at the end. Right? So you also need to write down your ideal timeline. If you don't have your ideal timeline, then you will be in trouble. And I ask this question because I'm seeing a lot of people saying that they want to land a remote job as soon as possible. Right? And I love that they are looking to land a remote job as soon as possible. But the thing is, if you need a remote job today, you needed it yesterday. And that puts you in a place of desperation. And the thing is, the remote job market is not for desperate people. And the reason for that is because people take advantage of desperate people. You have to understand that the remote job market is not a pretty place. And if you are desperate, it increases the likelihood that you will get scammed. And the reason for that is because when you're desperate, you want people to tell you what you want to hear. You want to hear, oh, you don't need a resume. Oh, you don't need to do an interview. Oh, you just need to do this. You just need to do that. They make it sound so easy, so simple, that that's what you want to hear. You don't want to hear that, you know, you have to put in some work to get this done, and it won't happen today. And when you are operating from that state, the state of depression, it's not the best place. The remote job market is not the best place to go. And my advice to you would be, if that is the case, I recommend getting a local job first before going to a remote job, because getting a remote job is way harder than it is to get a local job. Right? Let me give you all a story. So I spoke with this lady once, right? And she was desperate for a remote job. And she met with someone claiming to be a recruiter. They told her to message them on Telegram. Once me hear Telegram, I know that's a red flag. Not for everything, but when it comes on to the remote job space, Telegram, majority of the time, is a red flag. So they went on there, they did a so-called interview, and out of desperation, when they told her that, hey, we need to get access to your email address to verify certain things, she gave it to them, right? And they took over her email and all of her social media platforms. They basically stole her digital presence, and there was nothing she could do about it because she was desperate. While she was talking to them, she was saying to herself, this is a bit shady, but she did it anyways. And this is the reason why I'm always going to say, if you need a remote job right now, then a remote job is not what you need. You need to stabilize yourself first, and getting a local job is the best way for you to do that. Because you see, the remote job is a very dangerous place for the unknowing. Because most people who are trying to get a remote job are desperate. And you don't want to operate from a place of desperation, because that, my friend, will get you into a lot of problem. So I just want you to keep that in mind, right? Might be a bit hard to hear because you wanted it yesterday, but it's, believe me, it's for the best. If you try to chase it and you don't want to do it properly, you will end up in some problems. No, once you have the conviction to say, you know what, I can commit to this, the next question you have to ask yourself is, what are your skills worth in the remote job market? Right? What are your sales worth in the remote job market? Because what I've come to realize is that in the remote job market, specialists are the ones that get hired, not generalists. And I know if you guys are like me, you've probably worked in a lot of different industries. I'm talking about sales, customer service, admin, project management. You've probably done everything. And you may be thinking to yourself, I've done all of this. I can apply to remote jobs in all of these categories. And that is going to decrease the chances of you being successful in the remote job market, because these companies are hiring specialists who can solve a specific problem. So what that means for you is, out of all of your experience, you should look for the one that you would like to do the most. Also check what the earning potential is like for that industry. And then you build your professional brand around that industry. Because based on what I'm seeing, specialists get paid typically 1500 USD to 15,000 USD per month. That's what specialists gets paid. People who are good at solving a specific problem. Because if you can solve a specific problem, your onboarding time is shorter, and that is a plus for the company. You can come in and you can fix the issue that they're having immediately, or in a shorter time frame. They won't have to spend as much time training you up. And for generalists, people who are applying to positions stating that they have done all of these things and they can do it for any company, those are the people I typically see getting remote jobs paying between $3 USD per hour to $5 USD per hour. And the ones who specialize are the ones who get paid enough money to change their life and their family's life. Let me give you a story about being a specialist as well. Boy, I'm full of stories. But let me give you a story, right? I had this client once who was in the hospitality industry. She was a bartender, she was a chef. No, she was a chef, she was a butler, and she was a waiter in her career, right? And she said she wanted to pivot over to sales, no sales experience at all. And we're saying that that is going to be a very hard transition to make, right? Because I know people in the sales industry who cannot get a sales interview, right? She said she wanted to do it anyways. We said, okay, no problem. We optimized her resume for the sales industry, and we're telling her this is going to be hard because you do not have any sales experience. Didn't matter. We positioned her as a specialist, focusing on her transferable skills. And she got more interviews than regular sales agent, than people with sales experience on their resume, who I've seen in my comments, who I've seen in my DMs, who have been doing this for years and haven't landed an interview. She got multiple interviews as a butler trying to apply for a sales agent, right? So that is what I mean when I say you should specialize. Because if you have the experience but you're not getting the interviews, then that is the main issue. Pick one industry and stick to that industry. And once you've done that, the only thing you have to worry about next is how can you be successful. And everybody who I've helped to land a remote job so far, every single one of them have done the exact same thing over and over and over again to a specific point, right? Every one of them, their resumes got optimized, their LinkedIn got optimized, their introduction audio and video got done, and they were applying on a consistent basis. That's the starting line. That's the baseline. Everybody, most of them started getting interviews, right? But you know what made those that got the interview really stand out and landed the job? One, they specialize in a specific thing. And the second thing is they went the extra mile, right? They went the extra mile in their interviews. And you have to find what your extra mile is. Because I'm going to share a story with you again. Listen, I'm a storyteller. Well, not really, but you get what I'm saying. So Chantel landed a remote job recently. And this is very interesting. Chantel landed a remote job recently. Before she landed the job, she was getting interviews before. She's in marketing, right? And she was not landing the job. She got the interview, but she wasn't getting the job. And this specific company reached out to her and she said, you know what? I'm going to do something different this time. Chantel went ahead and audited the company's social media platform. She put together a presentation. And in the interview, they asked her one question. They said, tell me about yourself. After she finished answering that question, she said, I have a presentation. I put together a presentation. Can I share it with you guys? And she shared the presentation and they were in awe. They were in awe because nobody else did that. That was Chantel's extra mile. After that, they told her, hey, listen, we have 5 other individuals to interview. Can we get back to you by the end of the day? Chantel said, sure. She did the interview 8 o'clock, and by 11 o'clock, she got the job offer. Now, I am not saying you have to do what Chantel did, right? But look at Deandra. I'm going to use Deandra as a next example. Deandra has been applying for remote jobs for a while. And all she was getting was AI interviews. She didn't like the AI interviews, understandably why. But this time she got an interview with someone and it was not an AI interview. And when she went into the interview, she's in sales, by the way. She went into the interview and they said, let's do a role play. Typical for sales interview. Deandra said, sure. And they gave her the scenario. And when Deandra finished the role play, they looked at her and they said, no one has ever done this before. No one has ever delivered in the role play like you have just delivered. And they said the same thing to her that they said to Chantel, that the other company said to Chantel. They said, we have some more individuals to interview. Can we get back to you by the end of the day? Deandra got the job offer within 2 to 3 hours. Same as Chantel. Now, I'm sharing these stories to let you know that everything we give you tonight can get you to the interview, but you have to find what your extra mile is. You have to go the extra mile. And that's the reason why I will keep on saying getting a remote job is simple, but it's not easy. It's really simple. All you have to do is follow the steps, optimize everything, and then once you're in the interview, just deliver. It's really just doing a repetitive task and then over performing. That is really what it has. That is really what it is. So you have to find your extra mile. And then my next question to you, because you hear all of these stories, you have made your commitment, you've identified where you are, but can you survive the remote job market? Right? And that's a big ask, because getting a remote job is not a marathon. Getting a remote job is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And you have to understand, you can't jump into the remote job market today and expect to land a remote job tomorrow. Right? You can't jump into the remote job market this week and expect to be hired next week. There are stories like those out there, but it's not always a repeatable format. So you have to pace yourself. You have to pace yourself. If you try to rush through this, you will be in trouble. I promise you. Because rejection is a part of the game, but a lot of us don't know how to take rejection. You are doing your best. You're putting your best foot forward every single day. And then the company is telling you, we went to another candidate. And that can affect you mentally. I've seen it. I've seen a lot of persons who are in the process of landing a remote job, applying, following the steps, following the process, and then after a point, they just break mentally. They just couldn't take it any longer because they're putting their best foot forward, but they're not getting the jobs. But rejections, as I said, are a part of the game. You have to have a mindset to handle rejections. Not everybody will say yes. You just need one person to say yes. but most people will say no. And I know handling rejections is going to be a hard thing for you to do because it's such an emotional feeling, right? It feels personal, but it's not. It's really not. So you have to take care of your mental health. If you try to speed run the remote job market, it will stress you out. Like I have seen this so many times. I've heard the stories so many times. If you feel as if you're at your wits' end, take a break and come back to it. That's the reason why I said if you're desperate, get a local job because you can't just run through this like that. You can't. It takes effort, it takes time, and it takes consistency. So you have to take care of yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, all the time you're spending to get a remote job, you'll just be paying doctors to take care of you when you're not even making any money. So it's very important that you take care of yourself. And everything I just told you, everything I just shared with you, I want you to carry that with you because that will affect how you accept all of the information that Krishna, Pris, and Stephen will be sharing with you. And that's what I want to leave you guys with. We can't be more committed to your goals than you are. So take care of yourself and put your best foot forward. Over to you, Stephen.
Thank you so much, Oshido. Everybody give it up for Oshido by dropping some clap emojis in the comments. And if you're just joining the live, please give it a like so the algorithm pushes it to more persons, and also share it on your WhatsApp on everywhere. Everybody, just send it to everybody so more persons can join. Right now, we're at 2,300 and going. Now, so now you know what we're walking into. You understand the landscape, you know what remote work actually looks like for someone coming from the Caribbean. But knowing isn't enough. You can understand the game perfectly and still show up to the interview unprepared. Still send a resume that gets scrolled past in 3 seconds, still freeze when they ask you something you weren't ready for. Right? So the next person coming up is going to make sure none of that happens. And that is Krishna, who will walk you through the actual playbook of resume. Krishna, over to you.
All right. Good night, everyone. I'm Krishna. I have been working in the remote job space for about 8 years now. I'll be speaking to you about positioning, specifically how to tailor your resume and prepare for your interviews in a way that makes your value clear. Remote work is very competitive. We have to keep in mind that we are not just competing against ourselves in Jamaica, or if you're in your whatever country you're in, we're competing with people on a global stage. And no matter how qualified you think you might be, there's going to be sometimes there's going to be someone who is 10 times as qualified as you are. So it is not enough to just have experience. You have to know how to present that experience so recruiters can quickly understand why you are a strong fit. Think of positioning as packaging. You may already have the skills, but your resume, your LinkedIn, and interview answers should communicate those skills clearly. My goal today is to show you how to make the fit obvious before the recruiter has to search for it. The first mistake many people make is sending the same resume to every job. I recently dealt with someone who was applying to a job. They sent me their resume for me to, revamp it. I said to them that, hey, basically, you can't use the same resume for every job. And they looked at me, they're like, well, I've been doing this for how long, and I've been getting jobs. So I posed a question to them. What's the quality of the jobs that you have been getting? Do they pay well? There was silence after that. Didn't hear back from that person. Using the same resume for every job usually does not work well, especially in remote hiring. Recruiters are often reviewing hundreds of applicants. They are scanning quickly for signs that match the role. Instead of simply listing what you've done, you need to translate your experience into the language of the job. So, for example, instead of saying I answered customer calls, you can position it as managed high volume customer interactions across phone, chat, email, while maintaining service quality and accurate documentation. What we did there was not to lie, but we positioned you as a strong candidate for that customer service role or whatever role you're going to apply for. It sounds stronger because it shows the scope, tools, responsibility, and professionalism. The goal is very simple. Your resume should reduce doubt. Your interview should confirm the proof. When applying for remote jobs, I recommend using a five-part formula. First, be clear on the target role. Are you applying for customer support, technical support, sales development representative, admin support, operations, or project coordination? Your resume should not feel like, it shouldn't feel confused. Second, show relevant proof. Do not just say you are good at something because everybody can say that. Everybody can tell a lie. You have to show where you have done it. So using using tools like, let's say, pro- providing them with like a portfolio where you have your work on that portfolio. You can share work that you've done in the past, and as Oshido alluded to previously, you can also provide them with like a presentation of things that you've done. Those things really draw the crowd. Third, you can include tools and like tech stacks. Remote employers care about the systems you can work with, such as Zendesk, Salesforce, HubSpot, Slack, Zoom, Shopify, Google Space, Excel, and the list goes on. We also want to make sure that you show measurable impact. Numbers really and truly they do help. So sharing stuff like ticket volume percentage, response times, conversion rates, customer retentions for persons who are in customer service, accuracy, and the team size that you've worked with also all can strengthen your resume. And fifth, show your remote fit signal. This means proving that you can work independently, communicate clearly, document your work, and stay organized without someone standing over you. A strong candidate does not just say, I want remote work. A strong candidate shows, I know how to operate in a remote work environment. So we're going to move on to resume tailoring. And what I call this now is the three-pass method. This is a practical method anyone can use before applying. Pass one is match the language, read the job description carefully, look for repeated words. If the role says customer success, onboarding, CRM, escalation, troubleshooting, reporting, or stakeholder communication, those types of clues, they matter. You do not copy and paste the job description, but you should naturally mirror the language where it matches your real experience. Pass two is prove the skill. Many resumes are too task based. They say things like answered emails or updated records. That does not show enough value. It hurts to hear that, but it really doesn't show enough value. Instead, turn tasks into outcomes. What did your work improve? Did you reduce delays, support customers faster, maintain accuracy, help the team hit huge targets? Pass three is cut the clutter. A resume is not your life story. It is a sales document for a specific role. Every bullet point should support the job that you're targeting. If a line does not help the recruiter see why you are fit, it probably needs to be removed or rewritten. Let's move on to making your experience sound stronger. Let us look at a simple example. A weak bullet might say, handle customer emails and solve problems. That's not terrible, but it's very basic. It does not tell us the level of responsibility, tools, volume, or impact. A stronger version would be resolved high priority support cases across email, chat, and phone while documenting root cause and reducing repeat issues. That version is stronger because it shows the channels, the complexity, the documentation, the and the business value. When writing bullet points, start with a strong action verb like resolved, managed, coordinated, improved, documented, analyzed, supported, trained, or escalated. Then add some scope in the mix. When you're working across, were you working across multiple channels, supporting customers in different markets, handling technical issues, working with internal teams? Then add some value to it. Did you improve speed? Did you improve quality, customer experience, accuracy, sales conversions, or retention? Use numbers where you can, but they must be honest. Do not invent metrics. If you do not have exact numbers, you can use a realistic scope like high volume, use words like daily, cross functional, or multiple systems. This slide that you're seeing on your screen now shows an example of an ATS friendly resume. ATS means track applicant tracking systems, and I know a lot of us haven't heard that term before, and I'm glad to shed some light on this. It is the software many companies use to collect, scan, organize, and filter resumes before a recruiter even reviews them. So, guys, if you think that when you apply for remote jobs, it goes straight to a recruiter, no, 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 it does not. It goes through an ATS system. So be mindful of that. An ATS friendly resume does not mean boring. It means clean, readable, and easy for both software and humans to understand. Notice the structure here. The resume uses a simple layout, clear section headings, standard formatting, and direct language. The important information is not trapped inside graphics, icons, tables, photos, or complicated columns. And I do know some of us in the Caribbean, we love those pretty resumes, but we need to stop using them, to be honest. The headings are easy to recognize on this ATS friendly resume. The professional summary, experience, skills, and education, these are common labels that you'll see on a ATS resume. The skills section includes real job keywords like Zendesk, Salesforce, Jira, Intercom, Slack, Google, Workspace, and Excel. This matters because when a job description asks for specific tools, your resume should make those matches easy to find. The experience section also includes measurable proof, such as reducing resolution time by 30% and maintaining a 95% CSAT. Those numbers create confidence because they show impact and not just activity. The main takeaway from this slide is For most remote jobs, especially customer support, technical support, admin, operations, sales, and onboarding roles, your safest resume format is a clean, ATS friendly resume. You can still make it look professional with spacing, bold headings, and clean alignment, but the priority is readability. Your resume has one job: get through the system and make the recruiter say, this person matches what we need. Let's look at this slide now. I'm pretty sure this slide looks like some of us' resumes. This slide shows a non-ATS resume, or what I call a design-heavy resume. These are resumes with lots of colors, icons, charts, photos, kill bars, columns, and lots of decorative sections. At first glance, this type of resume may look, attractive. It feels creative and modern, but the problem is that applicant tracking systems may not read it correctly. Like when you're looking right into a bright light, you can't see anything while you're driving. That's how the ATS looks at it, like, whoa, what's that? Doesn't send it through. For example, if your resume has, 2 or 3 columns, the system may read the text in the wrong order. It might mix your dates, job titles, skills, and bullet points together like resume spaghetti. We don't want that. If your skills are shown as bars or icons, the system may not understand them as actual keywords. A skill bar that says Salesforce 90% may look nice, but the ATS may not treat it the same way as a simple skills line that clearly lists Salesforce. Photos, charts, symbols, and text boxes can also create problems. Important information may get skipped or scrambled, but this does not mean design-heavy resumes are always bad. They may work for some creative roles, portfolios, branding work, graphic design, content creation, or situations where a human specifically asks for a creative resume. But the safest way to apply for a remote job is making sure that your resume is ATS friendly. All right. So this next slide shows a non-ATS resume, or what I call a design-heavy resume. These are the resumes with lots of my bad. Let's let's skip to the last slide, which is the quick comparison. This comparison slide brings both examples together. On the ATS friendly side, we have a resume that is simple, keyword rich, readable, and best for most remote job applications. This is the version you should usually submit through job boards, company websites, LinkedIn, Easy Apply, and online applicant portals. On the design heavy side, we have a resume that has more visual flair. But it can break ATS parsing and may be useful in creative fields, but is not ideal for most online applications. And that's it from me, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Krishna. Now, everybody drop a paper emoji to signal your resume in the chat and let us know that you appreciated his presentation. Now, you have the landscape, you have the tools, you know what to put on your resume and how to position yourself and what to say when you're put in the hot seat. But I'm going to be honest with you, not all of that works if your head isn't right. And you can have the perfect resume, the perfect LinkedIn, the perfect answered rehearsal, and still talk yourself out of applying. Still shrink when it's time to show up. Still convince yourself the opportunity probably isn't for you or you're not qualified enough. And the last piece of this puzzle is the one most people skip. And it might be the most important, and that you're going to hear tonight. So let's go. Marketing guru, Pris, the floor is yours.
Oh my goodness. Hello, hello, everybody. If you do not know my name or my face, I am Priscilla McClure, also known as Pris versus the World Online. Shout out to my followers in the chat. Say hello. So, slides. I'm actually ready for my slides now. So, whenever you're ready to put those on screen, I'm ready to go. So today I'm going to be talking about something that, like Stephen said, most people don't really consider in their remote job search, but it is arguably the most important part. And it's what enabled me personally to 5x my old teaching salary with remote work. Now, I work in marketing currently. My degree is in Spanish, and I used to be a teacher. So how did I get to marketing? How did I experience this increase in my income? I'm going to share that with you today. So let's get into it. So before the tangible parts of the remote job search that we kind of take for granted, before the resume, before learning any new skills, before looking at a single job board, even before the interview, like before any of those things, I had to start with my mind. This is the most powerful thing you have. This is the most powerful tool you have. And what you do with your brain and what you tell your brain can really impact your journey. And I'm not just talking about remote work either. I'm talking about life in general and finding your purpose and increasing your income and finding a way to change your life and your circumstances. So I'm going to tell you my story because I think it's really crucial. The way I ended up in remote work is insane, and you're going to see why I say that in just a second. But first, let me show you the difference between my old way of thinking and my current way of thinking. Back in the day, and I'm sure you can relate, drop this in the chat. It used to feel very normal for me to say, I'm broke, right? And it just feels like normal to say because if your physical reality is showing you that you don't have any money, it's natural to say that you're broke. But what if I told you that saying that to yourself re-perpetuates you staying broke? Does that sound crazy? Put it in the chats, because just because you're broke in your physical reality doesn't actually mean you have to be broke. And now my new way of thinking in 2026, me right now in this webinar, I am more likely to say, I trust that everything works out in my favor. And this line of thinking is what allowed me to land a new client 30 days after losing my full-time remote job in March, just a few months ago. And I'm going to tell that story a little later in this presentation, but I want you to see the distinction between my old thinking and my new thinking. So even when I lost my job and I didn't know where I was going to get my next source of income, I still trusted and believed that everything was going to work out for me. But of course, this didn't happen overnight. I started my journey in 2020 and now it's 2026. So a lot happened in that time. And even before that, I'm going to throw it back to 2011 when I was 15 years old. Some of you might know this. I used to be a competitive swimmer. I swam for a club. I swam for my school. Big up St. Andrew High School for girls. Any Andrews old girls in the chat, let me know. And I also swam for Jamaica. I was a national swimmer. So 2011, I was down to swim for the Carifta Games. This is a big regional competition, right? And a month before the Carifta Games in 2011, something happened. I got injured. And this is not uncommon in any sport, but it's a devastating thing to happen, especially before a major meet. So I kept training because it's not like I could cancel the meet or just not go. It was happening in Barbados, right? So I kept training, but I couldn't train the same way as before. Now, a week before we left for the trip, we had a workshop with a former Olympian, and she came and talked to us about the power of visualization. So she walked us through closing our eyes, thinking about the race from start to finish, from the moment we touch the water to all the arm movements, all the kicking of the legs, feeling the temperature of the water, the feeling of touching the wall, the feeling of looking at the scoreboard and seeing your final time. So I went through that whole process. Mind you, still injured, so my physical capabilities are depleted a little bit, but I'm trying to work with my mind and I'm trying to work with the power of my thinking, right? Can you guess what happened? You're not going to guess what happened. Drop it in the chat if you think you know what happened. I can't look at the chat right now because I'm locked in right now. But basically, I had a major race that I really wanted to win, and that's the race I was visualizing. And I not only did I win the race, you can see me right in the middle between these two tall girls that I never ever beat before, but I also broke the meet record for this particular event. You can see me here on the news talking about the race. So even in my injured state, I was able to achieve something ridiculous. Like I could have never imagined that this would actually happen, but the visualization really helped me. So that's when I was 15. Fast forward now, 2018 to 2019. I'm a big grown adult now. I'm working in the Jamaican job market and I am miserable. Look at my face, people. I look sad. I'm down bad. So in this top picture, I was working at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Shout out everybody at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, great people. And then the bottom picture, I was teaching Spanish at UE, local university for anybody who's not from the Caribbean. And this was just the worst time of life. I was going through a lot personally. You can see the state of my skin, maybe if you're seeing clearly. But in this time, I met some Forex coaches. Now, I'm not going to be talking about Forex. That's not what this is about. But they introduced me to new ways of thinking, and they showed me some self-help books that opened my mind up to a new way of approaching how I was interpreting life and looking at my circumstances and looking at my own capabilities. So now 2020 comes. I started to get consistent with journaling and positive affirmations. And if you can see, I don't think you can see all the details, but this is the first journal entry I wrote at the start of 2020. This is February 27. And in this journal entry, I just started writing, I am. Anything that I could think of that was positive, I wrote, I am. So some of the top part says, I am limitless, I am fearless, and I have no anxiety. I didn't say I want to be limitless. I didn't say I don't want to have fear. I said I am and I have. And that's something really important. You have to approach these affirmations from a place of already having what it is that you want. And in this time, at the very beginning of 2020, before something happened, we're going to talk about that, I took action on changing my life, but I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I was moving forward. And just when I thought things were getting better, you know what happened? COVID, March 2020, everything mashed up. My classes got suspended because they had to move everything online and they couldn't figure it out. The depression came back from 2018, 2019. I couldn't make money. My classes were not going on. I had nothing happening for me. And there was so much uncertainty with what was going to happen next for me, right? And I got to a place where I was waking up very late. I was in a dark bedroom all the time. I wasn't taking care of myself. I just didn't care. I just didn't care anymore. And I got to my lowest possible point. But the thing with hitting rock bottom, which I always say, is that when you get to that point and you can't go any lower, the only place you can go is up. So I made an active decision after getting out of that depressive period that I was going to do something different. So I took stock of my skills. I said, all right, I'm good at teaching. What else am I good at? Writing. So I tried to get some writing gigs on Fiverr and Upwork. That didn't really work out all the way. I started a business. I was doing subtitling for a YouTube channel. So I was just making a little extra money on the side. And then I settled on the skill of copywriting. Now, copywriting is a marketing skill, right? And I don't have a marketing degree, but I decided that it was a skill I could learn online and it was something that was very lucrative at the time. So that was what I was going to do. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I just decided, all right, this is what I'm going to lock in on. This is a screenshot from June 2020, where I found a part-time remote job on Twitter, actually, from a Jamaican who was starting a digital marketing agency, very small boutique agency, and she needed a writer. Now, I had a terrible portfolio, but I had something to work with. I applied on a whim. She gave me a chance. I took that job. It was very low paying, but I did it to get the experience and to build up my portfolio. And then on top of that, I invested in a couple courses. I learned on YouTube and I read books just to get some information and to get that knowledge. Now, 2021, just under a year of me working with that agency and getting the chance to work for US clients and doing really amazing marketing work, I found a full-time role on Instagram with another big content creator in the US. She was on the New York Times bestseller at the time. She was a big deal. And she was hiring a copywriter, but they were asking for 3 years of experience. And I only had one, well, less than one, actually. And I just applied because I'm like, why not, you know? And they actually said, hey, we want to interview you. So I was like, what the heck? I have barely any experience and they want to interview me. So I have the email from HR from February 17. I have the journal entry from February 25. So I was documenting this whole time and I kept on with those positive affirmations. I am limitless. I am doing amazing work. I'm making more money than I've ever made in my life. I just kept saying that even though I didn't know how it was going to happen. So I did a couple interviews. I got all the way to the test project. And if you're in a creative industry, that is something you can expect from the application process. So they want to see your skills in action. So I did the test project. And when they gave me the instructions, they asked me to do a landing page. Now, a landing page is a very specific type of marketing asset. And it's something I did not learn or know how to do until January 2021. So mind you, I'm doing the application in February, right? I didn't know about the application in January, but I did a course from this lady that I found on YouTube. I took the course in January. I finished the course just before I needed to apply what I learned in that course to the test project. Tell me that's not God. Tell me that's not God. But also, had I not taken the steps to take action on my goals and to take that leap of faith to get into copywriting with no prior experience and no marketing knowledge, I wouldn't have had that thing happen with the lead magnets, with the landing page, with the test project. But God was preparing me for it because I was taking the steps to prepare for it as well. So I did the test project. It went well. I got to the final round. I did a panel interview to wrap things up. And I even journaled about it. And I said, I don't think you can see, but right at the bottom, it says, this will change my life. And I didn't know what was going to happen next, but you're not going to believe what happened next. They gave the job to someone else. Can you believe that? I get all the way to the final round of like 5 different rounds, right? And they end up giving it to someone else. And this is the email from HR to tell me that they went with someone else. This is the journal entry. Now, naturally, I was a little disappointed because obviously this was going to be a huge salary increase. This was a big deal. But I decided to approach it from a place of gratitude. So I wrote an email back to HR and I said, hey, thank you for the opportunity. I'm grateful that I could even do this. And I moved on, disappointed still, but I moved on. And then another miracle happened 2 weeks later. I got an email back from HR saying that they were going to consider hiring a second copywriter to join the team. If that's not God, again, I don't know. But all I know is I took the action that needed to be taken and God took care of the rest. And I find this parallel very interesting. When you look back at my first journal entry from 2020, it was on February 27. When I started journaling about this opportunity, it was February 25, 2021, almost exactly a year to the date. And in that year, I had to do so much work mentally, so much preparation to get to the point where I could confidently start applying myself to these crazy roles that I had no business applying to, but I did it anyway because I had faith. Now, a lot has happened since 2021 to now, but I want to focus on what happened this year because this was also a major turning point. Now, I was working for a different company by this time, totally moved on, something else, right? I started part-time in 2024. They promoted me to full-time in 2025. I got to travel to Mexico and Thailand with the company. And then all of a sudden, on March 4th, 2026, they got on a call with me and they said, hey, we're ending your contract. And I'm just like, all right, cool. Now, mind you, I have bills to pay. I have rent to pay. These things don't disappear. So what was I going to do? I didn't have anything lined up. I didn't expect this to happen. It's not like I planned for this. So you know what I did? I put it in God's hands. I posted about it on TikTok and LinkedIn. Some of you might have seen these posts. And I moved on. And I believed that everything was going to work out. I didn't panic. I didn't send myself into a frenzy about the bills and the money. I just said it's going to work out. So I started working for myself. I started to make sure that every day I was doing something to build up myself, whether it was my personal brand or applying to jobs that I knew made sense for me. I focused down on the jobs that really matched my experience. And overall, I approached every day saying, I am taken care of. A new job is on the way. There's nothing to worry about. And in less than 30 days after losing that job, I got the contract for a new part-time client, fully remote. That client is in the US, and this is one of the worst job markets we've ever experienced. This is just about as bad as when COVID just hit. So I say all this to say, I have 4 major keys I want to leave with you based on my story and the things that I've seen repeatedly happen over and over. It is very common for us in the Caribbean to have a bad mindset or a broken mindset around money, around finances, around our own abilities and what we can do to earn income. I want you to know it is a big world. There are so many opportunities, and remote work might not actually be the thing, It's not going to be for everybody. I'm going to get to a point in one of these major keys that's going to address this, but remote work can be for you. It depends on what your purpose is. But anyway, first major key is you speak things into existence every day, whether you're aware of it or not. And if you are a Christian, whether you're a Christian or not, The difference between lack and faith is really what makes the difference in your life. You are demonstrating lack when you say things like, I want, I don't want, I wish, I hope, because the fact that you're saying, I want this thing means that you don't have it. When you have faith in something, and if you truly have faith in God or faith in whatever you believe in, when you have faith, it means you don't worry. You don't worry about anything that's going to happen. You just believe it's going to happen. And you reinforce that belief by saying things like, I have, I am, I do, and I trust. So the next time you catch yourself saying, I want, or I don't want, for example, I want $10 million a year. By the way, that is totally attainable. Instead of saying, I want you to replace that with, I have. Even if you don't have it, who cares? Just say it. Just say it and watch what happens. I'm just saying. If you want to be the head of marketing one day, don't say I want to be the head of marketing. Say I am the head of marketing. And life has a funny way of unraveling so that you end up in that path. So change your thinking, change how you speak about your life and your circumstances, even if it feels silly, even if you don't believe it, and even if it is not your physical reality right now. I promise you it makes a difference. That is what made the difference for me. Major key two, there's always opportunity in crisis. When the stock market is crashing, people are always making money because guess what? They're getting the stocks at a discount. My opportunity in the crisis of 2020 was remote work. We are experiencing another crisis right now in 2026. There's all this AI implementation, tech layoffs, bubbles bursting, all kind of stuff in the international news. And you have to be paying attention to international news if you want a remote job as well. But just know that there is an opportunity in any crisis, whether it's a global economic crisis or a personal crisis. But it's up to you to discover what that opportunity is going to be. Key number three, faith without works is dead. Now, this is a Bible verse, and I like to kind of remix this into another statement. Preparation plus timing plus action equals opportunity. Again, if you don't have faith that something is going to work out, it forces you not to take the action. And the action is totally necessary. You can't believe in something and not take the action to support it, right? And you can kind of manufacture your own luck or your own opportunity by doing the preparation, taking those actions. And then when the timing is right, that combination puts you in the right place to get that opportunity that you want. And the last key I'll leave you with is let your purpose lead the way. Like I said, remote work may not be your purpose. Your purpose might not be able to be delivered remotely, but if it is, that's great. If it's not, I want you to be open to all the possibilities that exist for you to get your purpose out into the world. A simple way to do this is to think about what you're good at doing, what you can get paid to do, what the world needs, and what you love doing. I think I covered all four. If you want more information on that method or that framework for finding your purpose, it's called Ikigai. It's a Japanese philosophy. I'll put it in the chat when I'm finished. And the last thing, the path only becomes clear when you take the first step. Think of yourself in a forest and you're on a path and you don't know where you're going, right? You can't see beyond the trees in front of you unless you start taking a step. And as you take step after step after step, you bend a corner, you see something new. And now you take another step, another step, another step. All right, you're still blocked by the trees. You bend another corner, you see something else. But if you stay at step one and don't take that step further by taking that action, you will never ever see where you're supposed to go. So I hope this helps. Thank you for listening, and I will hand it back over to Stephen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pris. And you know, there's this quote, change your mindset and you will change your life. And Pris summed that up perfectly. So if you enjoyed her presentation, drop a swim emoji. So find the swim emoji. I know a lot of us don't use that emoji very often. So find that and drop that in the comments. And remember, I'll be doing my presentation now, and then the Q&A will be up after that. So you can keep dropping your questions in the comments. Now, can we, let's jump into my slide. So now, I'm taking off the moderator role and putting on the presenter hat, right? Now, I consider the grandfather of this lovely set of colleagues that I have. I've been working remotely full-time since 2017. Well, not anymore, but I'll get into that story in a bit. So I started this journey in 2017. But before I get into my journey, I'm going to ask you a few things, right? Now, when you were filling out your last job application and they got to the section that says, tell us about yourself, what did you write? And I want you to be honest. Most of us write something like, I'm a results driven professional with X years of experience, right? So cut that out. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of persons aren't getting called back, right? So tonight I'm going to show you exactly what to write instead. Now, looking at this slide here, they don't hire resumes, they hire people they believe in. Because here's the thing that nobody tells you when you're refreshing your inbox, waiting for that response, right? You send that job application and you keep checking. So why they haven't gotten back to me yet, right? So two people can have the same exact resume, the same tools, the same certification, the same years of experience, and only one gets the job and the other one doesn't. And I want you to think about this. When you're applying for a remote role, you're competing with remote workers from the Philippines, from South Africa, from Colombia, from Mexico, from each other here in the Caribbean, right? All for the same role. And the difference isn't skill. It's that the hiring manager believed in one of them, and that belief starts with a story. So let me tell you mine, because mine starts in a way I was embarrassed about for a long time, or maybe I wasn't embarrassed, but at the end of it, you can drop it in the comments if you think it's a story that I should be embarrassed about. So it's 2013, and I'm 2 months into my job as a journalist. And I'm sitting at my desk and I got a letter of termination, right? Now, me afraid, right? Because I have bills to pay, I have loans. What am I going to do? I just started the job 2 months ago, December 2012, and now you're giving me a letter of termination, right? So the second day of the second to last day, what am I saying? The second to last day of the final week, they asked me to stay on, right? And I said yes. Why? Because I needed the money, and it's that simple. Because a lot of us, we make decisions simply because of the money. We stay in a job that is uncomfortable, that is stressing us out just because of the money. But let me tell you what I did actually, right? So the pay was small, it was always late, and most times it came in pieces. Like I would get half now and then half 2, 3 weeks later, right? Like they were doing me a favor. So I did what any Caribbean person would do in a situation like that. I started researching how to make money online on the side and whatever else was out there, right? And that's when I came up on the platforms Fiverr and Upwork. So I started taking freelance writing jobs and voiceover jobs on Fiverr and Upwork. And I use the computer, the company's studio to record those voiceovers. I use the company's desktop to edit those voiceovers. And I use the company's internet to send those voiceovers to my clients, right? So I'm not proud of it, but I'm not lying either, because that's what actually happened. And then over the years, I got frustrated, and every Monday morning when I arrived at the gate, my head started to hurt me. So I knew that this was my cue to get out of here. So by 2017, I quit with no plan. This was June 2 in 2017. So I kept picking up freelance gigs on Fiverr and Upwork. And then by August, September in that year, 2017, I got my first remote job. So if you look back at that photo, that is me. I cropped it a bit, so that was me in the rain doing an interview with a coach for a local Premier League team, right? So no, this is my framework that I give out every time in regards to your story. And the first one, now, I know you've heard this thought and said, Stephen, I don't have a story like that. And I'm going to push back because this is what I call the wound, right? And the wound doesn't have to be dramatic. Your wound might be graduating, doing everything right, and spending 18 months sending out applications in the void and hearing nothing. That's a wound. Your wound might be the hardest worker in the room and still being overlooked when promotion time comes in. When promotion time comes, right? That's also a wound, right? The wound is simply the moment things didn't go your way as they were supposed to, and you had to figure out what to do next. So after the wound, the next thing you want is the pivot. What did you choose when the plan fell apart? For me, it was Fiverr at 10 p.m. after a full day of work. For someone else, it could be in a room, might be on LinkedIn and finally making a post, or the client said yes to you, or that course that you stayed up late to finish, right? So the conference that you're in now, this Sunday night, that is your pivot. And your worth, that's not just what you learned, it's what you became, because that's what they actually hire. So remember the framework: wound, pivot, worth. 3 sentences, that is your story, and that is your brand. So let's switch gears a bit, because I need to talk to you about something people still treat as optional in 2026, and that's your personal brand, right? So I know some of you are tense about this, right? Because you think that's for influencers, you think that's for founders on LinkedIn, for people who want followers, not you. And I need to stop you right there. So take that out of your mindset completely, right? You don't have a choice when it comes to this. Because when a company gets your application, before they call you, they go to LinkedIn. And 87% of recruiters use it as part of their hiring process. So some job application forms literally have a field that says, provide your LinkedIn URL. They're asking you to hand them your story before you ever speak to them, right? But let's go a step further. After this conference tonight, I want you to do one thing for me. I want you to go on ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Claude and type your name and search for yourself. But don't use the AI tool that knows everything about you, that you talk to on a daily basis, right? Use another one. So if ChatGPT is your thing, go to Google Gemini or Claude or Perplexity, right? Now, what comes up when you do that search? Because hiring managers are doing this, and I'm not speculating. They are typing your name into AI and asking what it knows about you. And if your answer is nothing, if there's no content, no presence, no trail of you thinking anywhere online, you don't exist. And in this remote world, when they cannot shake your hand, cannot read your body language across the table, your digital presence is the entire first impression. So your story is the room you walk into before you even walk into it, right? So what is your personal brand actually? It is not your logo, it is not your headshot, it is not your color palette. So ignore my yellow and blue and black and white that you're seeing, right? So who you are, plus what you've done, plus who you are becoming, that is your personal brand, right? And when you build it right, it works for you 24 hours a day, even when you're sleeping. And I want you to think of LinkedIn. LinkedIn isn't a resume platform, it is your sales page. So whatever you do on LinkedIn will sell for you 24/7. Now, let's get practical, because the question sitting in your head right now is, okay, but what do I actually post? And the answer is simpler than you think. So don't overcomplicate it, right? So I'm going to give you 3 scenarios, and these are just random, not written to the T. So if you're in customer experience, you're sitting on a gold mine. You handle frustrated customers every day. You figure out resolutions nobody documented. You de-escalate situations that would have broken someone else. Post the insight, not the customer name, but the lesson. Something like, here's what I learned handling hundreds of support tickets. Most customers don't actually want a refund. They want to feel heard. That one post will build your reputation as a CX specialist without you applying to a single job. So if you're here from a call center and you deal with customer support every day and you de-escalate, you already have the content. So all you need to do now is put it together and post it on your social platforms. Next, if you're into email marketing, show your thinking. Share a subject line you wrote or rewrote and explain why it worked, walk people through how you structure a welcome sequence. And you don't need to share client data. You can share your data, right? But share how your brain works, because that is what they're hiring you for. And if you're a web designer, don't post the finished product, right? This is something I see a lot of on Instagram, where we only post the finished product, right? But you need to post the problem. So my client needed a homepage that converted visitors into leads. And here are 3 things I changed and why. So process is more powerful than polished. So they want to know how you think, not just what you can make look pretty, right? So same principle across all 3. Show the problem, show your solution, show your thinking. 1 post per week in your real voice, that is the strategy. And if you want to take on the challenge and post every day like myself, Oshido and Chris, then go right ahead, right? So I gave you that. Now, you've been told this loudly and quietly, that where you come from is a disadvantage, right? Your accent is a problem, that your time zone might not be convenient, that the opportunities are really aren't designed for you. And I want you to hear me, because you need to be adaptable, right? You've been building things with limited resources your whole life, right? That's the Caribbean life right there. So that is your startup skill. Companies pay consultants hundreds of dollars an hour to teach them things that you know for free, right? Next thing is warmth. Caribbean people know how to connect with people. And in remote work, where everything is through a screen, relationship building is the entire career. And next one, resilience. You showed up tonight on a Sunday because you decided that this is not going to be your whole story. You want something to change, right? That's not a liability, that's your pitch. So stop hiding it. And I want to leave you with something I come back to constantly. And if you can't get a remote job, create one, right? Now, this is something I've done, and Pris indirectly did it, and she mentioned it in her presentation. She was sharing her content on LinkedIn, and someone offered her a role, right? So she was fired from her job. She couldn't get another one immediately, so she created one, right? So the person who hired someone remotely, they found that person. Maybe it was Upwork, maybe it was LinkedIn, maybe it was a post from someone they never met, right? Someone who showed their thinking online, showed their results, showed their story, and they reached out. And I want you to know that you can be that person. You can be the person that Jane Doe or John Doe reaches out to, right? You don't have to wait for an application to be approved. You can build a presence so clear, so specific, so real that the opportunity comes directly to you. But it starts with the 3 sentences, right? So let's go back. My wound, the moment things didn't go the way they were supposed to. Next one, my pivot, what I chose to do about it. Next, my worth, what made it me. That's it. That's your LinkedIn about section. That's your cover letter. That's your answer the next time someone asks you to tell them about yourself, right? 3 sentences. So you need to write that out tonight. After this session is ended, you don't need to do it now. Write it tonight, and then you build it from there, right? Now, the world doesn't need another perfectly polished professional, the 3 Ps, right? Because we think that we need to be perfect, polished, and professional, especially on LinkedIn. And if you follow me on LinkedIn, nothing I post is professional, right? Nothing she posts is professional. You just have to be your real natural self, and don't have this notion that LinkedIn is boring and LinkedIn is only for professional people. That remove that thought from your process, right? We don't need another resume full of buzzwords. You need someone who has been through something, right? And that's the other side of the real story. So that person in the room, your story is not the problem. Your story is the strategy. So I want to leave you with this, right? When this call ends, if you're not on LinkedIn, I need you to go on LinkedIn and create a LinkedIn account. If you're on LinkedIn already, I need you to optimize your LinkedIn account. That's number one. Number two, well, I mentioned, so number one and number two, create that account and optimize your account, right? Number three, start posting content once per week. And number four, do not slide into anybody's DMs asking them if they're hiring. Build your presence first. Let the content do the work. Opportunities come to people who show up, not to cold messages. And I'm giving you one more task, right? The one final action. Like I've given you so many assignments tonight, I hope you're keeping up. Go back to the original one that I gave. Go to ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or Perplexity or Grok, whichever AI tool you don't use, right? Remember, we're not using the one that's familiar with you already based on the data you fed it. Use one that you have been using and ask it about you. So I want you to go in, ask that AI tool about you. Probably you have to be specific because there might be multiple persons in your country with the same name. So give it a little bit more detail so it can pull that in its research, right? And then I want you to DM me on LinkedIn, Stephen Stanberry. You can find me. You'll see a bright yellow behind me, just like on the flyer. And let me know what's fun, what's missing from that. So I genuinely want to know. And that's the end of my presentation. And again, now I have to put on back my presenter hat, my moderator hat, and jump straight into the Q&As. So if you have your Q&As, drop them in. And if you have someone specific that you want to ask, you can add their name as well. And I'll ask that question and then they'll go ahead and respond. So thank you so much for listening to my presentation. Hope you found value. Now, since I've been asking for emojis all this time, just give me any random emoji you feel that you can give me right now. So let me just pull up this and go to the questions. Madam Producer, where are the questions? What's up? Tell me. Direct me to where so I can look at them. Right. So let's go into WhatsApp. There's so many questions, people. My gosh. I hope we'll be able to get through all of this. So this one is for Oshido. Yeah, I currently work a full-time job in Florida. I'm seeking a new remote job based in the US. I want to be able to work remotely in Jamaica, right? So I don't want your story, want resources and link. Please, I always land interviews but never get through with the interviews.
That sounds like more than one
as
question.
the final interview stages and still don't get the job. Are there any remote in teaching, mentoring children? Yeah, for someone who wants to transition from 9 to 5. Well, let's address that first one.
One at a time, one at a time, one at a time. All right, go ahead with the first one again. Stephen?
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, go ahead with the first question again.
All right. So I'm currently working a full-time remote job in Florida, and I'm seeking a new remote job based in the US. I want to be able to work remotely in Jamaica. I guess they want to move to Jamaica. So we don't want your story. We want resources and links, please. I always land interviews, but never get through with the interviews. And even
Question.
go, yes.
Is that one question, or is that a list of questions?
Let's answer them in stages. So let's address the resources and links, please.
All right, resources and links. The person asking for resources and links. Not sure how to answer this question because they say they don't want any story. But the thing is, you learn so much based on the story that everyone shared here. The stories are all resources, and we're all putting out content as well. And after this, you guys will be getting some resources. So when you say you're looking for resources, I just need a bit more context. If you could give me some context in the comments, that would be great. Are you looking for resources to optimize your resume, or are you looking for resources to do all of this for you? What type of resources exactly are you looking for? Because I believe that the advice that was given here and the stories that have been shared are a lot that you can actually learn from and apply to your current remote job application.
All right. And the next part of it is I always land interviews, but never get through with the interviews. I even go as far as the final interview stages and still don't get the job. Are there any remote in teaching, mentoring children?
All
So I'm
right.
not
In
sure.
terms of the person who says she or he is getting remote jobs, no, getting interviews but not passing the interview stage. And this is actually a very unique case. And I'm going to use Priscilla as an example here. Right? In Pris's case, she got the interview, she made it to the final stage. She didn't get the job. However, what she did, she went the extra mile to do a follow-up, which basically telling them, hey, thank you for interviewing me, which basically built goodwill with the company. So that extra mile actually put her in the good grace of the company. So when it comes on to that final interview part, I would say you should have followed up with the recruiter to find out what exactly it was. Because if you went through 5 or 6 stages of interview and you didn't make it at the last interview, it's probably something very minor that made the difference because you made it all the way up there. And it was probably you and just one other person. No, in terms of those of you who are getting interviews but not getting past the interview, not even the first stage of the interview, it's all about communicating your value to these companies. And that's something that a lot of us are good at. We don't know how to talk about our accomplishments. What you need to do is you need to understand the issue that these companies are hiring to solve. And you can know that based on the roles and responsibilities that are listed in the job description. Once you've identified those, you can then look at your skill set, similar to what Chantel did, and she identified, all right, these are the skills I have. These are the problems they're looking to solve based on this job description. And when you go into the interview, you position your experience in a way that solves their problem and not just answer a question.
All right. Awesome. So let's move into another question for someone who wants to transition from 9 to 5 to remote job. How do you go about finding your first remote job?
All right, finding your first remote job, it's going to be stages, I would say. If you are working locally right now, the first thing you need to know is what type of remote jobs does your current skill align with. That's the first thing. You don't want to just go in applying. You want to identify what are the skills that you currently have. What are your current skill sets? You list those out. Once you have that, you look for what the remote job market is looking for. The global Caribbeans will have this information. They'll have the jobs so you can see what these companies are looking for. Based on the skills that you have and the skills that these companies are looking for, you would tailor your overall professional brand for that industry. So you become a specialist in whatever field that you decide to pursue. Now, once you've done that, it's all about applying. That is really what it will take, because if you start at what most people do, right? What I've seen over and over and over again, when someone wants a remote job, the first thing they do is apply. Where can I find the remote jobs? This website. Okay. I'm going to apply. That's doing it backwards. You have to understand your value first. If you do not understand the value you bring to a company, then how will the company understand your own value? So once you're able to identify your skill set, identify what the job is looking for, and you're better able to position yourself, that would put you in a better position to transition over to the remote job market. So just identify those skills, identify the category, and that's your way forward. You're muted, Stephen.
My apologies. So this one is for Krishna. I'm not desperate, just very eager to actually get something that fits my needs and interests. If I'm applying for virtual assistant roles, what should I not be using? Why should I not be using the same resume? Krishna, that's you.
Okay, so when you look at, so you said that that you're applying for virtual assistant roles. So I'm not gonna say you shouldn't use the same resume, but keep in mind that a job title is different from a job description. So the job title might say virtual assistant, but the job description, the scope of the role might be a little bit different. So sometimes you have to tweak certain words to match a job description. So we're not doing the resume based on the role title, but we're trying to match the job description, and not all job descriptions are always the same.
Still on you, Krishna. What Caribbean island has the most WFM opportunities? Which island favors the most?
To be honest, I'd really have to do some research on that and post something on LinkedIn, but I don't have the statistics right now. But I do know that the Spanish-speaking countries within LATAM right now has a, and leg over us in terms of how we are recognized in this wider region. And this is why we're breaking out into this space to try to bring more attention to us in the Caribbean. But jobs are out there for us in the Caribbean.
All right. So a general one. I don't know who want to take on this one. For customer service, can we also include CSAT and quality scores?
Yes, I'm gonna take that one. So yeah, so for customer service, it's very important to add CSAT and quality scores on your resume, because as we spoke about positioning, it helps you to position yourself stronger. So recruiters look at this and they're like, okay, cool, 95% CSAT. Like, it might look attractive. It makes your resume look attractive. Now, if you don't have good CSAT, I wouldn't say that you should put that on your resume, but it's always good to add these things.
Awesome. Pris, I feel like I want to throw this one at you because I know this is something you've spoken about in the past, right? So do you also look for exactly what the job asks for to ensure that you match?
Meaning, do I look at what the job description says and then make sure it's aligned with my past
Yeah,
experience?
basically, yeah.
That has always been my approach. I don't do high volume, high quantity applications, but some people have a different take on that. My personal preference is to focus on quality applications, because not only does it prevent burnout, because if I'm going to apply to 100 places and maybe only hear back from 5, I'm burning myself out doing 100 applications. Whereas I could take that time, apply thoughtfully to maybe 10 to 20 places that I feel really aligned with my experience and the context of the business, and then really dig deep to do the proper research. And this also helps with your interviews, because when you show the business that you understand what they do, what kind of product or service they have, who they serve, the business size, the industry, and then you come to the interview showing your alignment with all of those elements, that makes you a stronger candidate. So it helps with your application in case there's application questions. It helps to strengthen your resume as well, and it helps you in the interview. So that's my personal approach, quality over quantity. There are some people who argue that you can do the quantity route, but I don't personally do that. And just a note for everybody on the live watching right now. We have a limited time on this webinar. And I know there's a lot of questions. There's a lot that people are wondering about. If we don't get to address your question tonight, you can always follow all of us on social media. There are points that you've brought up in the comments which are very relevant to this conversation. And we have spoken about some of these things. I'm seeing taxes in the chat. I know I've spoken about taxes on my page. I'm seeing things like how to receive payments, and maybe we can touch on some of these now, Stephen, since these are coming up repeatedly. But just a note that if we don't happen to get to your question by the end of tonight, you can always follow us on social media, see what we're saying about certain things, leave us a comment, and we'll try to address them as well. There's a lot of free content out there, so take advantage of that as well. It's just we have a very limited time tonight.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so let's try and go through them as quick as possible. What do you do if your past job experiences does not fit that role? And I want to add my 2 cents to this before I throw it out to somebody else if they want to add anything to it. Usually, if you don't have those skills, Krishna mentioned some tools and skills that companies usually look for on your resume. So find those softwares, take a free course on them, create a free account and practice on them, and then you can add that to your own resume when you apply for these roles. Anybody else want to add something else to that? Go ahead. No takers? All right, so let's move into the next one. My resume has my summary, then experience, then my education, then skills. Is that okay?
All right. I'll go for that one, Krishna. See what you're making for it there. All right. So when it comes on to that now, the way you have it, it's fine. I typically move up the skills section right under the professional summary section. So as soon as they see your summary, they see the list of the skills that you have. Other than that, you keep the work experience section at the same place, and you keep the education section at the same place. That's what I would recommend.
All right, this one for Pris. What avenues can people employ to upskill to make themselves more marketable or specialized to increase their success in getting a remote job?
Yeah, so the first thing I would recommend is if you're not already versed in a skill that is translated into remote or digital environments, you have to pick a skill first. And what I always tell people to do is check job descriptions in appropriate job boards. And remember, guys, we're going to share the job board with you by the time we're finished this Q&A segment. So don't hop off yet. We do have, people are asking for resources. We're going to share the link to the job board, and it is free. So you can start looking at these job descriptions for positions that are open to Caribbean professionals. So you're going to look through those job descriptions and see what is coming up repeatedly. Look at the tools and software that they're asking for you to have proficiency in when you find a job description that looks good to you, and try to fill in the blanks or fill in the gaps in your own skill set to accommodate what they're looking for, because global standards for certain skills are going to be the same across the board. So I know for marketing, I know this, and this, they're going to want me to have experience in that. And it's almost the same for every industry. So look at job descriptions, see what they're asking. If you can find a paid certification for it, or if it requires a paid certification, that is an investment you have to decide if you want to make. The platform Coursera is a good place for that. They have a subscription model, so you pay monthly. I think in Jamaica, it's supposed to be something like $29 a month, and you can do an unlimited number of courses when you do that. So if you have free time right now, let's say, for example, you're unemployed, you can go on Coursera if you have the money for it, take a bunch of courses and add those to your LinkedIn profile. Those are vetted, certified qualifications that you can achieve. But you can also just learn a lot of stuff on YouTube, honestly, and you can also learn with ChatGPT. A lot of stuff that I don't know how to do, I literally just go in ChatGPT and I say, how do you XYZ? And it will walk me through, and I ask it to take me through it step by step by step. So unless you're in a profession that requires a professional certificate, you can learn anything online, and you might not necessarily need a piece of paper to say that you're qualified in this thing. What the companies really want is people that can create results. So you need some evidence of those results. So the doing is more important than having the paper.
Awesome. All right. Chris, still sticking with you. How do I stand out in an interview?
All right, so I was helping somebody with an application today, and this is what I told her. This is what I've done. This is what I did when I landed that part-time client after losing my full-time job. And basically, if you want to use AI to help you in your applications, this is a tip. If you want to create strong application responses and interview responses, you have to do research into the company. So you're going to take the entire homepage of the company website, as long as you have details on the company. Because I know sometimes if you go through a recruiting company, or if you're on a job board that doesn't necessarily show you the company name, you might not be able to do this. But if you do have the company details, go through the whole website, copy as many details as you can from the website, put it into your preferred AI tool, then give it the job description as well, and then give it everything it needs to know about you. So that could be your resume, anything you have on your LinkedIn profile, and then you can ask it to ask you further questions about yourself so that it really understands how you are aligned with the job description and with the company. And then you can ask it to give you questions to help you. So based on all of that context, what are some questions that might come up in the interview, especially to do with the roles and responsibilities and how I've done past work or past projects that's aligned with what they're looking for in this role? I think a problem or a mistake I see a lot of people making when they want to use AI tools to help them with these applications is that they don't give it enough context. So you have to give it every single thing it needs to understand the company, it needs to understand the job description, and it needs to understand you. And it can help you to get aligned with that position, but it needs that context first. So that's just a tip. Whether you use AI or not, you need to do deep research into the company. You need to intimately understand what they're all about and then show how you connect with the company. That could be your past experience, it could be your lifestyle, it could be your personality, it could be your personal values. It doesn't always have to do with direct professional experience. I have used that strategy for multiple interviews and applications, and it always helps every single time for me to stand out.
Awesome. Now, question for myself. What are the freelance jobs I'm not doing something right as I'm unable to get a job on Upwork or Fiverr, right? And where do I search for my digital presence? Let me answer the last one first. I already mentioned this. You go into an AI tool that you have not been using. Don't use the one that you use every day. Use a different one and search. And you can just do a regular Google search of yourself and see. Now, in regards to freelance jobs, it all depends on what you offer as a service, right? So I can't tell you what are the freelance jobs. You have to know the jobs you want to offer as a service. And in regards to Upwork, and have been overly saturated post COVID. Like before COVID, it was easy to get a job on those platforms, right? But now post COVID, it's extremely difficult. And if you don't have a portfolio already, then that makes it even more difficult. So my recommendation to you is go on LinkedIn, create the content just like we recommended on LinkedIn, and then someone to reach out to you, or you can pitch to someone based on the work, the value that you bring, and how you think they can benefit from what you're offering. Right? Next one. Good night. I'm here to expand my knowledge about remote work and how I can get responses back when I do apply for a remote job that is not a scam. Oshido, want to take that?
You were coming in and out. Can you repeat the question, please?
All right. I'm expanding my knowledge about remote work. How can I get responses back when I do apply for a remote job that is not a scam?
The first thing I would say is the quality of your application, doubling down on what Chris said earlier. If you want to increase your response rate, then you need to stop doing applying and praying, spraying and praying. You need to stop doing that. What you need to do, and this is what most of my clients do. I have a tool for this, but I'll just break it down for you. You guys need to find the job description. Once you have the job description, identify the 3 most important responsibilities on that job description based on the job title, or the top 3 responsibilities. That's where I start. You can do all of them. Also, identify all of the tools that they're looking for the ideal candidate to have experience with. Once you have that, look at your resume. Have you done this specific thing before? If yes, is it clearly stated on your resume? Let's say, for example, you are in customer service. I'm going to use customer service because I was in customer service. They're looking for someone who can take calls, typical customer service shenanigans, right? You will be taking calls. So on your resume, you shouldn't just have took calls, like Krishna was saying. You would have something like handled 100 calls via Zendex and Salesforce, helping customer resolve issues within with an average handle time of like 5 minutes thereabout, which led to an increase in CSAT score of XYZ. Now, the reason why you want to position your experience like this is because when the recruiter look on your resume, the recruiter should know what you did. So they know the amount of calls you took, they know the tools you used to do that, and they know the results of you doing said task. So basically, the only thing the recruiter will need to do when they invite you to an interview is to verify that you've done these things. Because the job description said and handle calls, and you said you've done this 100 people every single day with this average results. That increases the chances of you getting invited to an interview. Really and truly, there is no secret sauce. There's no magic bullet. It's all about how you position your experience and target jobs that align with you. Don't apply out of desperation. Apply out of alignment.
All right, awesome. Next one. As a chef and an educator with over 30 years experience, what is available for me in the remote field? Do you recommend using a PDF version of the resume or it has to be Word? Krishna, you want to take that?
Could you repeat that question, please?
As a chef and an educator with over 30 years of experience, what is available for me in the remote field? Do you recommend using a PDF version of the resume or a Word version?
Okay, so I'm gonna attack the resume first. So your resume, when you're applying for jobs, your resume should always be in a PDF format. You use Word to edit it, but it should always, when you're sending it off, it should always be in a PDF format. Why? You send this in PDF format because it's a professional thing to do and no one can edit your resume. So let's say you're applying to a job. Your resume more than likely passes through at least three people's hands before it gets to probably the person who's interviewing you. And you don't want anyone to mess with your interview per se. So when it gets to, the person we're supposed to go to, it looks watered down and it doesn't look as attractive as it should be. In respect to you being in education and you're a chef, well, we can't cook online. So I would look at your honing on your education skills. I can't tell you exactly what role, but there are transferable skills that you have in education that can transfer to other roles. So I'd say check the remote job website that we are going to launch shortly and see if there are any type of experience that you have that is transferable, cross transferable.
Can I add to what Krishna said?
Yes.
All right. I just want to touch on the resume and the PDF side of things. It is
Yeah.
important that when you are uploading your resume as a PDF, you ensure it's actually a PDF. And I say this because the recruiter's ATS system scan the resume for the text on the resume. Now, what I've noticed is that some people, when you purchase a resume optimization service from them, they will send you a PDF document, quote unquote. However, because they don't want you to be able to convert that PDF document back to a Word and edit it, what they do is they create your resume as a Word document, convert it to an image, and then convert the image to a PDF. Now, that is very bad because the ATS system cannot read the information on an image. And I also see this happening when people, when you have your resume, you open a PDF file and you go on the option, or you open a Word document and you go on the option that says print. And when you click on print and you download that as a PDF, that is actually an image. It cannot scan it. So keep that in mind when it comes down to these PDF. Ensure that your PDF is not an image. And you can know this because if you go on your PDF and you try to highlight a word and it highlights, it's a PDF. It's a regular PDF. But if you try to highlight a word and it cannot highlight, it's an image.
Thank you so much, Oshido.
Awesome. So I see a few more questions, and we're out of time for the questions. But let me just squeeze these ones in quickly. This one is directed at me. How do you pay taxes? I don't know why they feel they should put me in the hot seat for this one, but you should pay taxes. Legally, you're required to pay taxes.
If you don't want to take it, I can talk briefly about it.
Take it away first. Take it away.
All right. So the thing with taxes, right, is that for the most part, and I'm speaking from the Jamaican context, right? For the most part, when you are hired by a US company and you are not residing in the US, what they tend to do is set you up as an independent contractor. This is not an arrangement that's limited to US to foreign country either. You can be an independent contractor for a local company and still be resident in Jamaica. So as an independent contractor, let me just say, any income that you earn that is received in Jamaica is liable to be taxed. So the issue is when you're an independent contractor, the employer in the US is not doing your deductions for you. So when you have a local job, your employer will take out your income tax if you have income tax to take out, your NHT, your NIS, your education tax. But as an independent contractor, that is not the case. You just get a gross salary, and it's on you to actually make those filings and be responsible for those deductions. I was filing my own taxes for the last 5 years. This year, I finally got an accountant, and I would highly recommend if you are earning income from foreign sources or any sources outside of a typical structured employment type of position, please get an accountant to help you because they will figure out how to take off certain write-offs or things that can be reduced from your tax bill. So my rent, for example, a portion of that gets taken out of my total taxable income because it is considered my office space. So if I were renting an office, that would be a business expense. So that is my business expense. There are a bunch of other things that are considered business expenses. Ultimately, get an accountant to help you. So you are probably going to be in an independent contractor type of arrangement where you might be considered self-employed. Some people open a business entity to account for these taxes and for the financial side. But overall, no matter what kind of income you're making, whether it's coming from America or another country or within Jamaica, you are supposed to pay taxes and file taxes and all of that. Now, if you're in another Caribbean country, that might be different. Consult with your tax authority in your country, talk to an accountant, get them to help you figure it out. But just know you will probably be in an independent contractor type of position. So just check your documentation when you get hired, sort it out with your employer, make sure you understand your contract.
Muted, Stephen.
Come on. Yes, here we go. Yes, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we have to end the Q&A right here. But now it's time for the feature presentation. So before we close out, Oshido, you have something. The public has been demanding this. There are lots of comments asking for this. So the floor is yours.
All right, no problem. All right, guys. So what you have been waiting for, Global Caribbeans. All right, so this is the remote job website that I built specifically for people living in the Caribbean. However, regardless of where you're located, you can use it. Now, just going to give you guys a quick rundown of what this is, how it works, and where we're at in the development process. So the first things first, once you log into the website, not even log in, once you go to the website, the first thing you'll see is the amount of jobs that were posted in the past 24 hours. Now, just for you guys to know, less jobs are posted on the weekend than throughout the week. So just keep that in mind. So that's just the overall stats right there. And then we scroll down, you have the categories, all unnecessary categories. You guys can explore that. You can use filter. I'm not going to touch into anything basic. Let's get on to the jobs. Now, with this job board, How it works is that it has other job boards connected to it. What that means is that Global Caribbeans is a central hub. We do not post the jobs. We are only a hub for where you can go find the jobs. So if you click on any of these right now, click on view jobs for any of these. I think this is somewhere. Where is this? Yeah, this is somewhere. If you click on view job, it will carry you to the job post on the company's website, right? So it's not hosted on Global Caribbeans, but we curate everything for you, because I'm pretty sure the question that we all get asked the most is where I can find these remote jobs. And now you have a central location for them. Now, once you're here, you will find the jobs. You will see the job title. You'll see the company that posted the job. You'll see how long ago the job was posted, the salary, whether or not it's accepting people from the Caribbean, which is Latin America, LATAM, Caribbean, you guys can apply. And I add this feature for you guys as well, because listen, I am tired of you guys getting paid below your worth. It just doesn't make sense. If you're going to get a remote job, then at least get a remote job that makes sense for you. So I have this average salary section right here, and you can use this for your salary negotiation as well. So what this does, based on all of the jobs that we've pulled in the job board over its lifetime, it calculates the average salary for similar roles. This means you will always know the going rate for a specific job within the remote job market space. This number will fluctuate because the data fluctuates. It goes up, it goes down, right? And then if you see anything that says Americas, let me just come up here to the location. All right, so these are the location, guys. People living in the Caribbean, regardless of what the job says, you can apply. If you're not in the Caribbean, the job will have to say Americas, worldwide, or global for you to apply. All right, and once you've done that, you are good to go. No, listen, guys, this is version 1 of the platform. So I'm going to need your help here, and I'm going to need some grace. So what I'm going to do is I am going to add a button somewhere on this, probably somewhere like here. So if a job ends up on the platform, when you open it, it does not accept people from our region, report it. My team and I will find the gap and fix the gap, because we built our own filtering system, but there are still jobs that may slip through the cracks. So I want you guys to help me to make this job board a lot better. And this is version 1, as I was telling you guys. Version 2, the main version that we actually have in mind, because this is Global Caribbean's Light. The main version will come with an academy. It will be a free online academy with all of the courses going over everything we just covered in this live. Detailed videos on how to write your resume templates, how to optimize your LinkedIn profile, how to write your cover letter, how to find a job. It will go over everything for you. So this right now is version 1. And I'm giving you guys this so you can leave me alone for a few months while I work on the main thing. All right. I'm doing my best here, guys. I want the best for all of you. You know that. So you guys can go ahead, scroll through, check it out. The website is globalcaribbeans.com. Globalcaribbeans.com, or you not change it? Oh, I just remember I should make it live now. Hold on. Don't move. All right, don't move. Just saving this. All right, that's saved. So let me come back over here and let me refresh. And it's still not changed yet, guys. Maybe it will take a while. But anyways, you'll just go to globalcaribbeans.com/jobs just to make it easy for you guys. But that will update automatically because I just approved the changes, so it may take some time. So globalcaribbeans.com/jobs. By tomorrow, you can just type in globalcaribbeans.com and you will have access to the job board. Now, I hope this is helpful for you guys. Go ahead and export to your heart's content. And keep in mind, this will be expanding every single day because we have added around, we're currently pulling jobs from like 30 something different websites. right? And we're filtering out all of the jobs that are not accepting people from the Caribbean. So anything you see on here, you know you can apply to. We're going to be upping that amount and working on our filtering system a bit more so we can get more jobs coming over on a day-to-day basis. But at the moment, we get like 100 to 200 jobs on a daily basis, as long as it's not a weekend. So hope you guys find this useful. Go ahead, use the job board. I love you guys. I did this for y'all. It's free. It's not free to maintain, but it's free to use. You know, it's free to use. And that's it from me.
Awesome, 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 awesome. I mean, there are no words to describe what we just witnessed here, right? Forget we work remotely, forget dynamitejobs.com. This is the only platform that you need, globalcaribbeans.com. So tell a friend to tell a friend and share it with everybody. This is the only platform you need for remote jobs. Don't go to those other ones where you're competing with persons from all across the world. This is the one where it only shows the jobs available to those here in the Americas and by extension, the Caribbean. So it's that time of night, right? When we have to say goodbye. But before I do that, before I wrap up this Caribbean Remote Work Conference 2026, looking forward to 2027. Don't know if it's in person or remote next time, but we'll see. But before I let you go, I need to do something for me. So think back to why you showed up tonight, that feeling you had sitting in front of your screen on a Sunday instead of shutting down for the week. Did you get what you came for? Because tonight, thousands of you sat in the same room, well, virtual room, and heard the same things, the landscape, the tools, the mindset, the story. Everything you need is right there. So the only question now is what you're going to do with it, right? And I'll tell you what separates the people who actually transform their lives from the people who say that this was a great event and go back to the same routine tomorrow morning. Action. That's it. Just action. So tonight, not tomorrow, not next week, tonight, you take one step, update your resume, fix that LinkedIn, write that first line of your story, one step. The community, this community isn't going anywhere. We're just getting started. And the fact that you showed up tonight tells us everything we need to know about what you're capable of. So for the questions that we didn't answer, reach out to us on our different social media platforms, and we'll be happy to assist you. So from all of us, Oshido, Krishna, Priscilla, and the entire production team, I'm Stephen Stanberry. Thank you for being here. Thank you for trusting us with your Sunday night. Now, go and build something. So, Caribbean Remote Conference. See you next time. Same place. Walk good.